Still no return for Major League Baseball. The union and the owners continue to be far apart on issues to the point where the union has said, hey, you guys just tell us what to do and now we'll do it, because it doesn't seem like you guys are willing to negotiate. So Shi Davidi is here with me right now. I had to negotiate with him to get him, but luckily we agreed to do this. Shi, why can't baseball agree on anything right now before we talk about what happens from here?
Well, if only their issues were as bridgeable as our issues. I mean, that would simplify everything. Look, there are a lot of things at play here. And I think the ultimate one is that the March 26th agreement between the players and owners that was supposed to provide a roadmap for how they were to conduct their business throughout the pandemic is essentially being interpreted in vastly different ways. The owners continue to insist that if games were to be played without fans, that the terms of that deal were subject to another negotiation. Whereas the players believe that the deal included no such clause and that they already agreed to a salary cut in terms of prorating their salaries for 2020. And that is where they're holding the line. So you've got this primary issue that they can't get around, and the owners can continue to try and extract a discount. They haven't gotten there. And the players are just so frustrated, just said, look, just tell us what you want us to do and we'll be there. End of story. You're going to do what you want anyways. We're not talking anymore. So this is a really sad situation for baseball. This isn't the way to have a season, especially under the circumstances. I mean, with the pandemic, with everything that's going on socially in terms of the racial justice movement, to be bickering over money in this fashion is just an absurdly poor look for Major League Baseball.
If you are casual and just kind of following this online, you probably have two questions. One, why is this playing out so publicly, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that's followed baseball and the players union and MLB when it comes to free agency, when it comes to service time, when it comes to a lot of different things. It generally plays out online. And secondly, shouldn't both parties be motivated to get a deal done right now? So let's start with the first point. Are you surprised at how public this thing has been?
You know, I've thought a lot about that, Faisal, and the thing that I keep coming back to is, why do you, as owners, continually try to devalue the prime product of your sport? I mean, the game is the players, right? And if you're continually trying to paint them as greedy and as the obstacle to a season in public, you're ultimately devaluing your product. So it makes me think that there's something wider at work here. It's not just a fight over money for this year. And to be fair, if we're going to go into a bit of a wider context, there's a likelihood that Major League Baseball, all professional sports, are going to have to play before either reduced or no fans again in 2021. So whatever is agreed to right now sets precedence for next year. So both sides have to keep that in mind. The other element that baseball has is that their collective bargaining agreement expires at the end of the 2021 season. And I think that there's been a lot of line drawing from this, but you know, the way that the owners have done this, they've continually used public leaks to try and set the conversation, to try and paint the players as the bad guys. And there's even been talk of salary caps. I mean, one of the offers that the owners put in was essentially a salary cap. And Ken Kendrick, the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, pretty much said that Major League Baseball is the only league that doesn't have this, and maybe they're in the wrong. They should be following suit with the other major pro sports leagues. So I think that somewhere in there's a motivation that goes beyond making things work this year on the owner side and really helps explain why they've behaved the way that they have.
Yeah, and again, it's difficult to process this. I mean, we know it's billionaires versus millionaires, but when you look online, and again, if you're casual and you're just waiting for sports to come back, you're like, oh, these greedy players, they make so much, without thinking about the optics of how much an owner makes or how much an owner's worth. And so when you talk about the public leaks, it really does make the players really look bad. Shi, what happens from here? We know the PA has said, hey, just tell us what you want by end of day, June 15th. That is Monday. That is tomorrow. What do you expect to happen from here?
Well, there are two possibilities, right? Either the sides can cool down a little bit and, you know, the cooler heads can say, all right, let's try and find middle ground. Because one thing that's happened with all the offers, Faisal, is that both sides have carved out what could be a middle ground. Just neither side has been willing to jump there just yet.
Yeah.
And if the saner heads amongst both sides can just get over what the perceived slights are to this point and just say, hey, we've got to unite for the greater good. Maybe they can negotiate some sort of deal or reach some sort of an agreement that saves them from the labor strife this fall. Alternatively, Major League Baseball can say, hey, this is the deal. You guys said, tell us when to show up. This is when you show up, and we'll have an acrimonious season, which doesn't make a lot of sense because you're going to need a lot of cooperation to keep everybody healthy playing through a pandemic. COVID-19 cases are spiking in a lot of the places where teams play baseball in the United States. We are not through this by any means. The fear was there's a second wave that could come in the fall, but we may not be through the first wave right now in some parts of the continent. So that's a really bad situation. We'd hope that they can go down the first road, but they could go down the second road, which could also lead to litigation as well. So this could get a whole lot uglier than it seems right now.
Yeah, and that's hard to believe given, again, what we've seen play out online. Is there any part of you that feels like there won't be a 2020 MLB season?
No, I think there's going to be a season. They've invested so much effort into it. And, as much as the owners are seemingly willing to cut off their finger to spite their hand, ultimately they're not going to chop off the entire arm.
No.
And if you're going to sit out the entire season, what is that doing to your business in the near term, in the medium term, in the long term, and to the thing that's most important to all 30 owners, their franchise values?
Yeah.
So I think ultimately there is some form of season as long as the health conditions exist for one to take place.
Well, here's hoping, Shi. Again, it's difficult seeing, the NBA optics aside, they've at least put a plan in place. The NHL, we know, has put a plan in place. Baseball, still nothing. We'll see. MLB has set a end-of-day deadline for June 15th for the owners to tell them what's up, Shi. We'll see what happens tomorrow, and I imagine we'll be talking a little bit more about this as the days and weeks go on. Thanks a lot for doing this, Shi.
Take care.